All right, guys, welcome to the No Shill podcast. We got two very special guests here today. I want to say you guys are a big part of my childhood. We have Eric and Julia. You said Lewald, right?
Lewald.
I'm sorry, Lewald.
No,
It's Lewald.
It's a weird name.
The podcast today, who are the writers of X-Men, the animated series from 1992 to 1997. Welcome, guys, to the podcast. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you for inviting us on.
Thanks, Raphael. Good to see you.
Yeah, no problem. How are you guys doing with the new series?
And I'll say it this way: in Hollywood, you are rarely ever invited back to the dance. So the fact that the two of us plus original X-Men the animated series producer, art director on the art side, Larry Houston, the three of us have been invited back, and we are consulting producers on the new show, which still blows my mind.
Yeah. And to put that in perspective, they're very nice. It was gratifying that they brought us on, but it's their baby. I mean, this is like 130 somethings that have spent the last 3 years making this show. And, you know, once they were up and going, they brought us on, as they said, to be their first audience, to give our reactions to everything they were doing. So in that way, we get these wonderful credits and we get to be involved in it, but we really didn't have to do any heavy lifting. It was their work that's on the screen, if you guys have been enjoying it.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a big fan of the animated series. I was born in '84. I think I started reading X-Men. I want to say it was 1990. I'm not 100% sure if that was the year. I don't know if I got introduced to, because Gambit's my favorite X-Men character, and I'm not sure if I got introduced to him from the animated series or from Jim Lee's. There goes my book. Jim Lee's run right here. Yeah. So I don't know. And that's a question I wanted to ask you, because Jim Lee's comic came out in 1991, and that's the highest selling comic book to this day. I think it sold over 8 million copies. And my first question is, did they approach you to do the style of Jim Lee because of the popularity of that comic book?
Well, pull up a chair. There's a whole story there.
Obviously, I mean, you guys.
You got the book.
I got the book back.
Yeah. So, guys, it's like so many other decisions on that. Something, you know, they're spending a lot of money on a TV show, and everybody has a say and an interest and wanting to get it right. And so there were half a dozen elements in deciding for the look to be what ended up to be very much a slightly simplified version of the Jim Lee look for animation. Because, I mean, the big thing for animation, especially television animation, is it's incredibly expensive to animate detail. So anything you get, our show, Batman, Disney Afternoon, which is where we met, if you look at the drawings in books, the books are much more detailed because, you know, as Larry said, if we gave Mr. Sinister the detail that he had in the book, if he moved his cape once, there went the whole episode budget. Boom. There's all that detail because every one of those things is hand painted. People don't understand that there were maybe 700,000-800,000 hand paintings per episode.
Yeah.
And the more detailed they were, the more time they took, and the more money it cost, and the longer the budget took. So keeping a design simple for animation is hugely important. It allows you to animate it well if it's simple. So that Larry and Will Mineo basically supervising producer over the whole thing, very much a comic book guy. Both of them had at least a dozen years of production experience in animation, loved Marvel. And they looked and they said, okay, this is the cleanest, simplest, most basic design to look for our purposes.
Because there were 30 years worth of X-Men books to draw from.
Right. Must have been a couple dozen major artists had drawn for the books before. So where do you start? I mean, Jack Kirby on up. And, you know, Will decided that. He also decided, look, it's the most it's current. So it's not like if current Marvel fans in 1992, 93, when the show's coming out, are going to be perplexed by the look. They say, oh, what's this look? Oh, this is a 1971, you know, whatever they're going to be comfortable with it. It's the best one for animation. And they really all the artists really liked it. So, I mean, the Jim Lee thing won on all counts. And we didn't really have, we were frantically writing the scripts from like the first hour we had the job. So all the design decisions were made by the artist side of our team. And we didn't have so if you're curious about, certain decisions or what the costumes looked like, or, that we didn't have a say in that whatsoever. Obviously we had a say in who was in it and what their characters were like, that sort of thing.
Now, just to play off the Jim Lee acknowledgement here, there were, and we may get a chance to talk about it, there were multiple times when the development of X-Men the Animated Series could have just shot right off the rails. And
just died, and the show wouldn't have gotten on, or it would have been terrible.
And one of those things was, and again, we go way back, 1992, there was no internet. There were no cell phones, were a new thing. Marvel was based out of New York City, and all of us were in Los Angeles. So businesses would close on a Friday afternoon. Nothing would open until Monday morning. So think about that now. We had to fax things. We had to go to a drugstore to fax things.
If our fax machine broke, we had to rush out the local Rite Aid to send something to New York.
Communication was not instantaneous.
Yeah.
And then Will Mineo got the word after starting all the production, after designing everything.
We were 6 or 7 weeks into a really rushed. I mean, from the beginning, saying, "Oh, you're going to do X-Men." The time it's supposed to be on the air, hand drawn animated. We were given like 7 months because it's supposed to be on in September, and so we started out kind of a couple months behind. 6 weeks into the show or so, Will and Larry have designed this whole world and given it the look that fits with the Jim Lee look. Designed all the characters, all the guest stars, and we are 8, 9 scripts and at various stages, writing as fast as we can. And Will gets a message saying, "Oh, by the way, no," from Marvel saying, "Oh no, we're no longer happy with the Jim Lee look. You have to throw that all out and start from scratch."
Oh wow!
Oh man, what?
And I said, "What?" And Will couldn't believe it. I said he didn't know why, and they didn't say why, and he's dying inside. He said, "Look, this is gonna just blow our schedule out of the water, and it's wrong because this is the right look. And how do I fix this? How do I fix this?" So finally, he came up with the idea, and he sent in to Marvel like late on a Friday for all the current Marvel people and Stan and all of our artists to see in a packet, faxed to them a really awful looking set of characters like Scooby-Doo X-Men babies.
Oh wow!
Yeah. Okay. You guys you don't like the Jim Lee look? Here's an alternative. This is what you'd rather us do. And everybody went crazy, lost their mind. And by Monday morning, they said, "Okay, Jim Lee looks cool."
Oh wow!
What you guys probably know is they wanted to get rid of the Jim Lee look because Jim and the other artists left the form image.
Yeah,
and that was.
So that was what prompted most business people don't want to support their competitors. They don't want to highlight what somebody else is doing. They're probably a little bitter that the artists left. So they weren't doing it to make the show better. They were doing it out of being mad at Jim Lee and the other artists. So luckily that crisis was averted and we didn't have to do a design that we didn't like.
Oh.
And you mentioned Gambit being one of your favorite. So again, backstory, 1992, Eric had worked as the story editor for the second season of Beetlejuice on Fox Kids.
Oh, nice.
And that was what kind of got you in the...
That's how I got the job. I mean, when I got the call on a Sunday night for a Monday morning meeting with Stan and everybody, it was, you're going to be creating this X-Men show for television and running it. And that's a Marvel book, right? I'd never picked up an X-Men comic, so I had to learn real fast.
But part of that was picking the team.
Oh yeah, picking
the team.
So each person, each group, Marvel Comics and Fox. It was a Fox Kids show. Believe it or not, Marvel didn't have final say. If we liked a story and they didn't like it, we just say sorry. We're going to do it anyway. And so it's not at all the power balance you see today, but it was Fox's show. And obviously the artists had an added idea. The writers had an idea. Marvel had an idea about who to pick. We looked back, and there'd been 29 different characters over the 30 years of the books that had been X-Men. So we could pick people like Nightcrawler and Colossus and folks like that we could have chosen. And Marvel wanted a couple of newer people like Gambit that they were hot on. Everybody agreed that Professor X and Scott and Jean are kind of a core.
Yeah.
And that's where we started, because they'd been with it from 1963, from the first issue. But after that, who was going to be on it? We all agreed, well, Wolverine's the hottest guy right now, so he's got to be on it. He is his unique self. And from the writer's point of view, we were just pushing to get 7 or 8 people as completely different as possible, so that we'd have all these different characters, and we wouldn't have 6 of the same guy. We wouldn't have 6 big gruff guys like, Wolverine, Cable, Colossus, Thunderbird. We wouldn't have just this bro fest somewhere. We want to have completely different people with completely different powers as best we could. And the animation people wanted, for the animation side of it, some things are easier to animate. Like flying is a lot cheaper and easier to animate than running.
Yes.
So characters that fly are good. So that weighed on people like, Storm and Rogue that could fly. So that was great for them. And just there were half a dozen elements like that went into choosing the 8. And believe it or not, if you look at like our show Bible, or we did a book about it that told about how we chose it and interviewed everyone on that. That there are a couple characters like Beast that were just going to be secondary, and that's why Beast's in prison in the first episode.
Yeah,
because he wasn't going to be one of the main team, but he's so cool and he's so different and he's so great to write for that as we were writing the first season, we kept on putting him in the episodes and kept putting him in the episodes. And by the end of the first season, he just was a main part of the team. So that was it. He inserted himself just by the power of his personality into the main team. We didn't choose it at the beginning.
And Gambit was such a great character to have for this team, because you didn't really know. He's the one who came with his own baggage, and you didn't really know if he was going to stay, he was going to stick around, or if he would just say, "I'm out of here." So that I think just made him such a great character to write for. And then his relationship with Rogue. Oh my goodness!
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Soap opera.
Yes.
Yeah. Soap opera. How did you go upon choosing Morph?
We picked someone to kill.
Yeah.
Honest to God, we and this was a big deal in kids programming because nobody'd done this before. But Mark Edens and I, who were like the two people that laid out the first season, he's like
on our dining room table, because there were no writers' offices. This was a cheap production.
So we just said, okay, we need to show that there's heroic sacrifice. We need to show that being an X-Men means something and has consequences.
In the heroic, Joseph Campbell sense of the word.
Forget Joseph Campbell.
Okay,
just heroes in general. There's got to be something at stake. And so they finally went along with it. And we put in Thunderbird. Just and because we looked, and so we asked the people that knew the X-Men, including Larry Houston, let's pick a character out of, there must have been half a dozen that have sacrificed themselves for the X-Men, have died, helping out. And Thunderbird was one of the first ones. Just, okay, cool. We wrote him in, and then somebody among the executives looked and said, wait a minute. And we wrote the whole script with him in it. He's the only Native American character, and you kill him in the first episode. This might not be too cool. So we thought, okay, well, who else we got? We picked, as Larry suggested, we picked Changeling, because he had been in like 4 issues and sacrificed himself for Professor Xavier. And okay, we put him in, we wrote it in Changeling, we recorded it. And then some attorney called and said, you can't use Changeling because DC has a Changeling character.
Yeah.
So but Marvel's came first. It doesn't matter. We got to avoid lawsuits. This is, just change his name. So Morph is Changeling. And he's in there to be killed.
And he's in there to stay dead.
And to stay dead.
Yeah.
But he didn't. And that's because the first season was incredibly successful. Nobody believed it. We were all let go when we were done writing and drawing, because they didn't think it would be more than one season.
Yeah.
And so, but then we get hired for season 2, and we're all excited about getting started. And we get a phone call saying we just had a room full of, 9-year-olds that watched the show and their focus group. And we asked who their favorite X-Men was, and Morph won by a landslide.
Yeah, he was one of mine too. I wanted him back.
Yeah. So he begged us. He said, "Look, I know you worked your ass off to be able to have a character die in our show, but please, for the sake of the network and the fans, bring Morph back." So that's why Morph came back. We hadn't planned on it.
I was recently at WonderCon this past month, I believe it was, and I got to go to the X-Men 97 panel, and I got to ask a question to the cast. And I'm going to ask you the same question. It was directed to JP, who voices Morph. I think he reposted my question too, because he sent me a DM on Instagram, and he was really happy with the question that I asked. And I asked him, it was meant for him specifically, but even though the show was based off of 1992 and he didn't do the voice, but what I asked him was, why did Morph push Wolverine out of the way, knowing that he's got mutant healing powers when the Sentinel blasted him?
Are you asking us, or you're going to tell us?
Yeah, no, I'm asking you. Yeah.
Okay, well, it's real simple to us, and this is something I don't think the movies did that well, and I think it's a recurring problem with the Wolverine character.
And this was the first 2 episodes of the whole series. And
yeah,
it's like, how do these people work?
How does his healing work?
Yeah.
So our rule for Wolverine, and I believe this is what was intended, because we talked to Len Wein about it a lot, the guy that invented him. The writer, the comic writer that came up with him. Our belief was he wasn't Superman. He wasn't immortal. That if you put a gun in his eye socket and blew his brain out, he's dead.
Right.
He can't. He's not Deadpool. Okay. He's not this thing that just automatically pops together. In fact, if you notice in the first season, they didn't let us do this later, but Sabretooth rips him, scratches him.
Yeah,
he's got a bandage,
big bandage on his chest.
An afternoon, which is not at all the way they played him in the movie. So we thought of him as somebody that heals eventually if he doesn't have a mortal blow. The adamantium is great. It stops stuff from getting past his ribs like bones might, and you can't chop his head off because you can't chop through the adamantium. Right. But if if you blow his brains out through his eye socket, he's dead. And so when Morph was saving him, our understanding of Wolverine's healing powers were that they're limited, that they're not this unlimited thing. Which again, canon is different. They've been doing it for 60 years.
Yeah.
It's a problem for us because you're trying to write stories where the audience cares whether your characters are going to get hurt. And Rogue's basically immortal, but if nobody can get hurt, then you have to go for comedy like Deadpool, because you're just bouncing around. It doesn't matter how you get chopped up; you're gonna reform. So our idea in the opening was that Wolverine could have been killed by the Sentinel if Morph didn't save him.
And Morph and Wolverine are so close that it wouldn't occur to Morph to not push him out of the way.
Yeah, they were such tight buddies.
Yeah.
So
that's exactly what JP said too.
Oh, that's so nice. I'm glad.
That's exactly what he said too. Yeah. Okay, well that's good to know. I had another question and I just drew a blank. As far as let's see, I totally went blank. Carlos, you got a question? I got to think of it. I went blank.
We can back quite a bit. You were talking about Morph, and I think if you go back and watch all the episodes, the way you brought him back when you had to bring him back, I think was very poignant and crafted a really important character that Morph sacrifices himself for his best friends, and then under Mr. Sinister's control or power, he is led to believe, no, they sacrificed him. Your friends betrayed you.
They left you to die.
They left you to die. So that when he comes back, he's traumatized, and you play that out. And I think that made for some very interesting storytelling.
Yeah,
and I'll say all credit to, have we mentioned her name yet? The president of Fox Kids at that time is a woman named Margaret Lesh, and she had spent 10 years working at Marvel Studios
trying to get X-Men on the air, and nobody in Hollywood wanted to see it. They said nobody's going to watch that stuff.
So when she became president of Fox Kids, she was willing to take chances, and she knew she wanted to make an X-Men show. And you're not going to hear many people sing the praises of executives in Hollywood, but Margaret Lesh deserves all the credit in the world. Her right-hand lieutenant, who gave notes on every script on every show, a fellow named Sidney Iwaner, and he's a real pill, but he kept pushing too to make X-Men intense. And Broadcast Standards and Practices, which had absolute final word, was a woman named Avery Coburn. And when you first mentioned, oh, you and Mark, you think you need to show heroic sacrifice, you need to sacrifice characters. What? That's not going to happen. But Avery Coburn understood the books, and she understood what you were doing, and made the point that it's not on screen, it's not gratuitous, there's not blood, it's just, and if anything, it's more powerful because you see
the reaction of everybody.
Jean Grey
sensed these laws,
right?
Rather than seeing his body blown up or something.
Yeah.
So we had very strict rules to work within for being a kids show, but had these wonderful people above us that actually had great respect and affection for the books themselves, which is really rare out here. And wanted us to be as close to honor them the best we could. So that's how we had all this leeway to make such a different show.
Yeah. Was there ever a comic book storyline that you wanted to do in animated series?
You're asking the wrong folks. If it were Larry, who had memorized every issue, he might have had 20 or 30 that he wanted. There were some writers that were super, geek fanboys that knew just about everything that had been written about the X-Men, and they had some stories they wanted, and some of them got through. In other words, the stories we chose were mostly by me or come out with by me, but writers would pitch them to me, and I said, "Oh, Asteroid M, this is cool. What do you guys know about Asteroid M? Sell me on it." And then they would tell the whole story about Asteroid M, and they'd pick stuff from wherever it had shown up in the books. And so I ended up, helping them craft the 2-part Asteroid M story without ever picking up the comic books, because I just trusted I just trusted that these writers, knew their X-Men, and we had a backstop. I mean, Bob Harris at Marvel was reading all the scripts, and he was their head of all their X books. And so if there's something a little bit out of line, he'd say, "Oh yeah, no, the guys don't do this, or that's way out of line for Wolverine. We can't." So there's somebody that would catch us if I did something stupid. But most of the stuff that comes directly from the books, which is just kind of here and there, was stuff that writers would pitch to me, and I'd say, "Yeah, that fits the TV storytelling needs that are in my head." We're trying to get a good Storm story here, and Shadow King's the one we should use. Cool. I don't know, but if you say that he's her best antagonist, well, let's use him, and I'll do a little reading on the Shadow King. But so people would bring stuff to me like that.
And in that first season, it was considered so off the wall, such a crapshoot making this series, that while the highest compliment is folks saying, "Oh my God, you captured the comic book so brilliantly," but there aren't a lot of direct adaptations. And I say that because I got to be the writer on part 1 of Days of Future Past in the first season. And it wasn't until episode 11 and 12, Marvel was actually kind of going, "Okay, this might work. Would you writer people consider adapting this?" Yeah,
and then with the 2 Phoenix sagas, that's obvious. That's
later.
That's third season where we have those 2.
But the fact that Marvel in the first season was willing to sort of trust us with one of the crown jewels, one of Chris Claremont's crown jewels, even though we don't get to use Kitty Pryde, even though we need to send a physical person back in time, and that's Bishop. It's like, what? Okay, but it's people respond well to it, and we got to meet Chris Claremont a couple years ago.
Yeah,
Oh, nice.
And he was
and hang out and chat.
and kind of say hi. I
Yeah.
did that episode that you. And he was very gracious. So that was nice.
He's a nice guy. So that's why we started out with saying we need, we want to show a story about Rogue's vulnerability. Okay, so it came up with the idea for the cure about somebody offers her a way to get rid of her mutant ability.
It's a great episode.
Well, who would be good? Who might be behind that? Okay, well, that's why we brought in. That's we want to show Apocalypse at some point. Here's a cool twisty place for it. So we'd start with our lead character, like thinking like a TV writer, and then build a story around him or her, and pull in people from the X-Men world. We've tried almost never to come up with somebody just off the wall or different or not that weren't in the books. We'd use the books for reference and to pick. We need to tag. Like I said, we need somebody to make Storm miserable. Okay, well, here's this guy that done it pretty damn well, so we'll use him. But it wasn't like we were a fan that was dying to show this villain. We were just trying to find the villain that would most dramatically reveal who Storm is. And so that was the kind of perspective on writing the stories.
That was kind of your guiding principle for all of them.
Yeah, all the way through.
What is the personal story for each of the X-Men?
Yeah.
In whatever the circumstances are. They can fly, they can punch people and all, or punch things or tear apart Sentinels, which is part of what they are and what they do. But the big satisfaction came from the personal stories.
Yeah. I have a question about the episode One Man's Worth. Now, was that before or after Age of Apocalypse?
Before.
It was
Eric
before,
came.
right?
I was here. I was there when you came up with it.
You look at if you guys get a book, there's a wonderful big book that's got all of the Age of Apocalypse in it.
Yeah.
It's, 1,000 pages is hardbound. It's like $120. Wonderful book. And at the back, it explains, Bob Harris was out in LA talking.
He writes a letter in the book. That's in
the back page of the book. And he says, we were out there talking with the animation people, and Bob came out of it with this cool idea that they were doing a story of, and it built into this Age of Apocalypse. So we had like a two-part. We had the story kind of laid out. Bob saw it like in December. He liked it. This is cool.
What if Xavier never lived? What if he didn't survive to make the X-Men?
And it came from the fact I really love the show. The movie It's a Wonderful Life, and I really love the Star Trek episode City on the Edge of Forever. They both had as the turning point in the story. If one person was taken away, it would change all of history.
Yeah,
which is just kind of a cool thing to imagine. So, okay, this is going to show how important Xavier or the X-Men are to the entire world. If someone goes back in time and kills him, then everything changes. And so that was the kernel of the thing. A wonderful writer named Richard Mueller wrote out the two-part story with me, and he did half of the script, and then another writer did another half of the script, did the other script for the two parts. But then what happened was, for whatever reason, time travel stories drive everybody crazy. They always think, no, you can never make the logic work. But if he goes back farther, and then that changes what he would know, and everybody has an opinion, and it drives. And the notes were like, so we worked on that story. Must have worked on that story for like 8 months,
which is unusual.
Usually it's about 6 weeks, but we worked on it for months and months. And while we were revising and coming up with it, Bob had got him started on thinking about Age of Apocalypse and how cool that would be. So when we finalized One Man's Worth and handed it to Larry to do storyboards, he was laying out to hand to the animators. It had been months. Bob called and said, we've already started drawing some stuff up here for this Age of Apocalypse thing, which is going to come out in about 6 months. Do you want to share some of the design and have it be part of with the show? And Larry said, yeah, that would be cool. So Larry actually half a dozen of the character design bits from Age of Apocalypse that they were drawing there, that they were preparing for when the books would come out, he used in the episode. So it makes it all so mishmashed. But the nice thing is, say, we've taken so many nice ideas and stories and the whole setup from all the things that the comic book writers did and used them in our show. The ability to give them one back was just really felt good. You know, they say, okay, you guys want to do something with our One Man's Worth. Cool, run with it. We'll see what you do. And they did this amazing thing, this huge thing. So we love them for it.
Yeah.
But One Man's Worth first.
Yeah, I was reading comic books during that time, and I remember reading the Age of Apocalypse comics because I got out of comics after, I think, a little bit after Onslaught, and but when I was reading Age of Apocalypse and then I saw One Man's Worth, I didn't know which came first. So.
And it's for all those reasons, it's confusing to everybody for this day. And you're not the only one that wonders how this all happened. But it's, you know, people, even mediocre minds think alike. So we help each other as we come up with stories. So it was a good thing.
And kind of to sort of go back to the beginning here again to clarify. Eric, you were tapped to be the showrunner, story editor of the series back in February '92. And your job with Mark Edens was to come up with the 13 episodes, 13 stories that would be what could be the only season of X-Men.
Yeah, we could have ended just with number 13 where the Sentinel or Master Mold is destroyed. And that would have been kind of the wrap up for the series.
And Gene and Scott could have been on the beach just looking into the future. But then when you got tapped to, but
then it worked. Then you fans loved it, and so they said, "Come on back." And most of us had all gone on to other jobs.
Yeah. Oh wow!
And so luckily, we had told the people we were working for, most of us had, that if this X-Men thing comes back, you know, in a few months, and they want to do a second season, we want to go back. So I was able to go back, and a number. Will Mineo wasn't. He had to stay on at Universal with Mark. And they did a 52 extra squads, which we'd set up with them.
Right.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So that was what I was working on for 3 months while we were waiting to see if X-Men would work or not.
And then when you got tapped to do the second season, again, it was another 13 episodes. So the first 13, Margaret Lesh, the marching orders were as huge as the comic book is, X-Men. It's a small part of pop culture at that time. So you have to introduce the concept of the X-Men, the concept of the mutants, the concept of what the issues are to the world with the animated series.
Yeah.
So those were your marching orders for that first 13. And the second 13, it was, okay, you've established this. Now, what are some of the more personal stories you can tell?
So we started having more time to go in more depth with people's lives, like, you know, the Beast story that Julia came up with, the Beauty and the Beast.
That's a great episode.
I'm glad you like that.
Yeah.
But then also so that 13 happened and with the whole Savage Land intrigue. Then you were after that they said, okay, now we're going to go for the full order.
But at that point they'd made enough money and it was successful enough that Fox and Marvel decided, okay, we're gonna commit to doing 65, which was kind of the golden number back then.
Which is how you got Phoenix and Dark Phoenix and some of the longer stories then.
Yeah.
So it wasn't 5 seasons of a whole series. It was one season. It was another single season, and then it was 3 more seasons.
Yeah,
so,
I love how you. Oh no, go ahead, Carlos.
So how long did it take you guys to write one episode, or I guess the whole season?
Well, I'll give you some extremes. We just told you the worst, the hardest one. Right. It took like half a year. The shortest one ever was 2 days.
Oh my God, I remember that.
And that was me. That was because we were on a low budget, and there were 76 episodes we ended up doing, but episode like 48, somewhere in there, a writer and I were really keen on an Omega Red story, and people weren't liking it. Usually, if people don't like it, they'll say it like the 1-page premise or a 10-page outline, and everybody will weigh in, and it'll get pushed aside, and we'll start again, and we'll change the story around to where people are comfortable. Everybody is comfortable with Fox and Marvel and all the producers and everything. And for whatever reason, in this case, I I really liked the story, and the writer was pushing for it. So we pushed and made them let him write the whole 40-page script. So it's handed in, and it's due going into production on Monday, and it's Friday, and I get a call saying, "We still hate this." My boss is saying, "You missed this time. We don't have money for you to call up or schedule time for you to call up and spend another 6 weeks with another writer getting to this stage on a new story. So, Eric, we need a completely new script by Monday morning. So guess who gets to do it?" There goes my weekend. And I just, the submarine story with Omega Red and Storm getting Deal with the Devil.
Yeah.
That was just like 40 hours of coffee.
Wow.
It's because they need, that's part of the professional side of this. If you screw something up, you got to fix it, and there's not extra money. So it fell on me. I couldn't ask White Red. So that one was 2 days. Usually it's about 6 weeks because it's
total from the
total,
assignment, the outline,
Yeah.
Assignment, premise, outline, script, first draft. Script,
Yeah, it's like Beauty and the Beast. Okay, Beast falls in love with the blind girl who's going to get her sight back. It's kind of a reference to a Charlie Chaplin movie that we all love. Okay, cool. Everybody gets it. Then you write like a page and a half premise that lays out the story from beginning to end. Everybody, all the various people, the artists and the executives all give their notes on it and say, this is cool, but could you add something here, whatever. Then you have a 10-page outline. Goes through the whole thing again. And each time, like the censor lady also, they say, "Oh, you can't have them blow up this city. You can't have them fall off this mountain.
Yeah.
You can't, you get a list of 20, a facts of 20 things that need to be changed, and you negotiate that. And so, well, can they fall halfway off the mountain? Okay, cool. So, and then you have a script that's 35, 40 pages, and then a revision of that. And all that takes about 5-6 weeks usually. Same thing with the storyboards. Larry says storyboards about 900 drawings for each episode. And so he handed it out to like 300 to 3 of his artists.
Right.
Each person gets an act, and they draw and they draw and they draw and they draw. And it takes those 3 artists about 5-6 weeks to draw the whole storyboard and get notes on it, and Larry will revise it. And if an act isn't working, Larry will redraw it.
Mm-hmm.
So again, he's the same position as me. If it's not working, the guy at the top has to fix it. And so about 6 weeks for the writing, about 6 weeks for the drawing. And in the meantime, they've recorded it.
Up in Canada.
Yeah.
Way back when, up in
And
Canada.
so they get all the elements together, and they ship them in a big box overseas. And then these guys in Korea paint 700,000-800,000 cells and painstakingly animate them and send it back, and you hope it all looks right.
Yeah.
You get it back and you hope it all works and it's all cool. You've got people supervising during this time, but there's no computers really. There's no internet, so they can't even show us rough versions of what they're doing. We just have to, like 2 weeks before it screens, look at it and say, "Oh my God, it's got 38 errors in it." And they've got time to fix 19 of them, and they can cut out 7 or 8 of those moments, and we could do whatever it is. Our post-production people had to work. Okay, now it's on the air. So it was really, as I said, our guy referred to it as kind of a garage band deal, and that's kind of how we felt. It was boom, boom, boom. No time to pause, and it was great because we worked other places where they've got a lot of time and money, deep pockets. They said, let's take a 9th stab at that story. I'm not quite sure that's exactly what I'd imagined. So people can then second guess themselves to death. Yeah. And it just slows down, and it's terrible. This was cool. This was exciting. We never had a vacation day with our kids because we had to get something in by Friday.
Did you guys were you guys able to keep the scripts that you guys wrote? Or anything from the show?
Oh, sure. We got all the scripts and the storyboards.
And
nice.
Oh, wow. The faxes.
And all the angry memos from executives saying, "What the hell are you doing here?"
Well, and okay, thank you for bringing that up. I want to all this was back in the days of big old floppy disks and having to use bulletin boards to try and load things half an hour easily to try and transfer a script just across the city. So a lot of papers, a lot of paper.
We had a guy deliver a script to me, a writer deliver a script to us after an earthquake, after the Northridge earthquake.
Oh, wow.
He drove through the rubble to get to my house and give me this because he couldn't email it to me.
No, he couldn't, and he couldn't send it on the phone line.
Yeah.
It was but just the train doesn't stop for anybody or anything. Right. But so we were just putting things in boxes and storing them above our garage. And I'll say this, it was in 2015 and I think it was Batman, whom we always looked at, with a certain side eye, because they had all the support and all the money, and they had amazing talent there. We know them all. It's like, well, golly, they get to do really cool stuff over there, Batman. But X-Men never had a full studio support behind it because it was such a piecemeal operation. And because rights were then sold off bits and pieces. Yeah,
Marvel was going bankrupt. It went bankrupt in the middle of our doing the show. So yeah, there wasn't like this Warner Brothers behemoth behind it that kept on doing new Batman shows. They just kind of, okay, you're done with your episode, fine, it's over.
We had not been going to cons or fests like for 15 years because we're not voice talent, we're not artists, and we didn't really know what kind of community was out there supporting X-Men. And I know I poked you at one point because we couldn't, there was no celebration of good old X-Men, the animated series. There was nothing that.
So she talked me into interviewing, this is like 450 pages of the oral history where we interview, the writers and the artists and the voices and the executives and everybody that had a hand in making the show. And it goes into detail on each episode. And that was just really cool. It was just kind of a self-indulgent thing. And the publisher realized there are enough X-Men fans out there that it would kind of pay for itself.
And everything was done fair use.
Yeah. So Marvel, there are no color pictures in here from Mark because we didn't have the rights to Marvel's artwork. So it's got all this detailed history of everything that went on and our fond memories of all of it. And then Marvel got all the rights, but when they bought Fox, when Disney bought 20th Century Fox, all the rights came back together, and they have $1 trillion because everything Marvel's doing is turning to gold.
And then Eric gets an email from the vice president of global licensing for Marvel Disney, and it's like, oh crap!
And they say we're going to get in trouble for doing our first book without their permission. And he said, no. We know everybody loves the show so much,
and they like your book,
and they like the book. So, but now we've got the rights to it. So let's do a big art book, to complement the history. And we got it, and that's how we got to do the art book. And those two.
Oh, look at that!
Just art. So you know, Larry Houston and Rick Hober, who were two of the four main artists on the show from beginning to end, did the covers. Yeah, there you are. Okay.
Oh my God!
That's Larry. Larry did that. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That is gorgeous. Yeah. Oh, your own personal gambit.
Yeah. Speaking of that book, previously on X-Men. You're going to be going to Ontario. I think it's called Ontario Comic Con. Are you going to be taking that book with you?
We'll have a couple of cases of them.
We have a minivan.
We have a minivan. As many as you want. You want to teach a class in these? We'll sell you 30 of them.
Yeah, I want to pick one up, and I need you guys to sign my book too.
Would love to.
We're there now. So you're going to be there.
I'm going to be going. Yeah, I'm going to be going.
Cool. Very cool.
I think we're there for.
I'll show you
both days.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Please. Yeah. So the two books have kind of afforded us a way to get back into attending cons, which has been a real source of joy for us. Oh, what do you got there?
So
yeah.
Larry
you got that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
the big
Larry
this
one
poster.
I got at WonderCon, and I got most of the cast from the '97 to sign this.
Oh, that's
boy,
cool.
did you beat us on that? Because that's amazing.
But here's the problem I have. I can't. Carl Todd?
Carl Dodd.
Yeah.
Cal Dodd.
Cal, sorry. And Potter, they don't come down here.
No, it's a long trek. And it's cool. For a long time, when we got the first book, and we started going to a couple cons and realized, here's something we can do. And I interviewed all of them on the phone
for the first time, meeting them on the phone because we never
flew to Canada to deal with the voices.
Wow.
They recorded about they snail mailed an audio cassette of the recording to us here. We listened and we gave notes. And on the next weekend, when they were doing the next episode, they'd make the fixes. So they were in Canada, we were here, and it was much more primitive time. But so when I did this book in 2016, 17, I talked to all of them for the first time. It was great. I got to know them.
Yeah.
And then when we started going to cons, we called up and said, Cal, there are people that will pay for you to autograph stuff.
Yeah.
If you work it, if you call around, maybe you can get a booker and they can get you airfare to some of these bigger cons and you could have a profitable weekend. He's, oh really? Yeah. Said, okay. So the first time the voices were at a con, our booker, wonderful guy named Michael Perez,
yes.
It was in Texas near San Antonio, Hill Country Con, and got us there and got Beast and Wolverine and Rogue and an actor that had done 8 or 9 of the voices, Tony,
yes. Mm-hmm.
And so got 6, and Larry. So got 7 of us down there.
First time any of
the first time any of the voices had been to an American Comic Con.
Yeah.
And they looked around. Really, this is cool. I mean, people are all coming up to us and asking us about the show and paying for our autograph. And so it was like this light bulb went off for the cast
and for us.
And now, over the years, they're going to more and more and more and more. And if you look online, Cal's must be going to one, every other weekend.
Yeah, it seems like it.
We don't get out that much. Once a month is pretty good pace for us.
We're older.
Yeah. And it's wonderful to be able to drive to Ontario.
Right.
Because we got all this heavy stuff. Those books weigh 4 pounds.
Yeah.
So if we want to sell some books in Pittsburgh,
we
have to mail 240 pounds of books to Pittsburgh. So it's just it's easier for us if it's drivable, if it's Arizona or Las Vegas or Ontario or the Bay Area or somewhere.
Or San Diego.
Yeah. Or WonderCon, Anaheim. WonderCon's been great.
WonderCon's, I love WonderCon.
Yeah.
Although not my only note, but we've been there a couple times when it's fallen on Easter Sunday. And it's it is worth your soul to try and drive into Anaheim Disneyland World on Easter Sunday and drive back out. And
it gets crazy there. It gets pretty crazy down here.
Yeah.
Yep.
So with the success of X-Men the animated series back in the 90s, was there ever talks to do a movie kind of like what they did with Batman Mask of the Phantasm?
Oh God,
we would have loved to do that. We really would, because we know those guys. I mean, Alan Burnett is one of my oldest friends in the business, and he was
he's so good.
Bruce Timm and Paul Dini get all the creative credit, but Alan basically oversaw the entire Batman thing from beginning to end and made it all happen. And they got a bunch of they got a bunch of those wonderful animated, modest budget. It's not like a $250 million Pixar movie or something, but these modest budgeted animated features. We'd love to do it like with the Phoenix Sagas.
Oh my God.
The Phoenix Sagas are 110 and 88 minutes. They're both feature length in effect. And so we know how to tell those stories, and we love doing it. It just, as Julia was saying, there was no studio there.
And by the time the show wrapped up, the rights had all started falling apart. There was a spearhead.
Marvel was going bankrupt. Saban didn't care. He made his money.
And he was making more with Power Rangers.
So no one had an interest in doing it. Then they tried a couple other. They tried X-Men Evolution. They tried Wolverine the X-Men, and they had some success. And so they were still but it was kind of hit and miss. Some group of investors would get together and say, well, let's maybe try another X-Men. So there wasn't this studio behind it. And then I think you look back at the split of the rights. No one's going to put money into something where another company can say, oh no, you can't do it. So as long as 2 or 3 people like Fox and and Disney had Fox, 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 Disney, Marvel had the different parts of the rights to the show. No one could move forward, and that's what we're so thankful when Disney bought Fox, and that worry was over.
Well, and that we got to start not fantasizing, but thinking, oh my God,
they may do a new show.
We
maybe
dreamt about it, but
they may do an animated film. They may do a new animated show now that the rights are together. And we found out very quickly that they're smart. They knew, a show that had like 100 million fans, they're going to do that, and so they plan to do X-Men 97, I think, or something like X-Men 97 from the moment they knew they had the rights back together.
Yeah, I was honestly worried when I found out they were going to do the new series, because I didn't know if it was going to be like the original, and so far it's amazing.
We tease, we watch it and go, wow, that's what you can do when you got money and time. Wow.
Yeah. They're doing a beautiful job. And we are curious to find out, because, we're out here in Hollywood. We've been here forever. We love television. We've seen, say, people have a beloved show and then 20, 30 years later try to go back to it and just fall on their face and have it be awful and completely wrong and miss the whole point of it. I mean,
and they'll Hollywood types will pick an older pick a project that's been out there and not invite anybody back from the original.
Right.
And that's
no interest in that at all.
Yeah,
So in this case, both, we were asked to be consultants, and the guys got it right. At least it really feels, it felt like that way to us. We were reading it, but you never know until it comes out and people, the viewers either get it, fall in love with it, or they don't. It's like a song. You can say it's wonderful. You can say you put your best people on it, but if nobody connects to it, it just dies. And people connect. It feels like people have connected to 97. Everything we see online, fans are really loving it.
It's trending almost every week.
How crazy is that? And I point out right now, by the time episode 10 airs, then anybody can binge on it all they want to. However, we are the only people on the planet in the history of mankind that have this weekly drop for X-Men, which is very much what the old series was in 92.
Yeah.
It was your playground chat on Saturday morning. It was your water cooler talk.
Yeah.
It was the college, TV room chat. You had to wait for the next episode. And I think that's part of the fun.
That's fun.
It's fun.
Yeah. Even Gambit was trending.
Yeah. They still need to make a movie. Still to make a good movie with them.
I agree. I was going to ask you guys. So you guys consult for the new show. Mm-hmm. How much consulting are you guys doing and helping them out?
Well, okay, yeah, but all right. So,
so just to start, just so you know, Bo DeMaio, they had wonderful executive supervising, a couple of folks that just grew up and loved our show.
They know the show. They know the original series better than we do.
The executives and the creative staff on the show know our show better than we do.
Yeah.
So, the gentleman that was in charge of the script, the showrunner Bo DeMaio, had told us he had a rule. He'd been on other shows where people didn't respect the original material. They were doing a reboot, yeah. But he said, I asked every single writer and artist that came on the show, every staff member, did you love the 90s show? And unless they said yes, they had to say yes or they wouldn't be hired. So there were like 100 people working on the show, all of whom this was their favorite show growing up.
And
that's why I'm sure that's why they got it right.
And sort of banging our own drum here when we got to have, because it was all happening during the horrible COVID years when you couldn't, but so Zoom, we've had Zoom meetings with the different departments there.
Oh,
and
sure, yeah.
the artists were what was so thrilling was so many of them had the X-Men art and making of book, like right behind them or right beside them. It's like, oh my God.
As like the reference Bible.
And so what they've done for us is we will get to see pretty much, we'll get to read a locked script. and then we'll get to see an animatic, which we didn't get to see back then.
We didn't have the
animatics.
budget and the time
Yeah.
for it. What it is, it's, you know, they're roughly sketched versions of the entire show that are animated roughly with the voices on it and some rough music on it. So it's pretty much looks like what the episode's going to look like, but in a very unfinished form.
But still amazing.
It lets you react a lot better, you know, one stage further and one stage better than just reading the script.
So that's we get to see all that. And my contribution so far, has been, there was a time when Storm speaks to Hank McCoy and calls him Henry. And I said, did we ever call him Henry? We're going back and forth, and it's like, no, Henry is Henry Gyrich. We don't, Hank is Hank. He's never Henry. It's like, okay. You know, it's like,
so the small things like that. And there were,
so I'm contributing.
But you know, they had worked on it so hard.
Oh my God.
That there really wasn't, I mean, we just have to be painfully honest. You know, we put some good time into reviewing all the stuff they done, but it was all already so good.
Oh my God.
It didn't. I didn't want to interfere. And I said, well, but you know, if I would have written it, I would have changed the scene. I didn't want to be that guy.
You want to tell this story?
Yeah.
You really want to tell this story?
So basically, if it read beautifully from beginning to end, I just, you know, I'd write back and say, guys, you did it again. You know, thumbs. So which is a nice position to be in, because if I thought it was terrible, it would have been a miserable consulting time, fighting with them over, you know, what are you doing to our legacy? Thank God that didn't happen at all. But I could just we imagined that when we signed on. I said, what if we really don't like their take on this? How do you deal with that? And it was our job. You know, we wouldn't have had any leverage. We just would have had to sit and live with it. But that didn't happen at all. It just was. It was too good, too quickly.
If you told us 32 years ago, starting this thing, never could have imagined we'd be here. Never could have imagined.
Yeah.
My God. And
you know what you know what I like what they're doing with the new season too is kind of what they did with the season 2 is how they'll tell one story and then at the end there's another story like they did with the Savage Land.
Yeah.
I love that they're doing that.
I have a fun Avery Coburn in one of the memos we have upstairs when there had been such catastrophe in doing the sequential episodes because episode 3 originally came back and it was not airable, but you couldn't show episode 4 because it was, you know, the stories you couldn't switch them like that. So season 2, when you came up with the idea of the Savage Land, you were able to write that whole series out.
So what they said, because the boss will say you can't do 13 connected stories in the second season. It's just, there's too much chance that we're going to get one back that's terrible and we just have to stop and show repeats for a month while we fix it. They said, okay, let's do an opening 2-parter, closing 2-parter, and 9 little bits that connect in the background with Xavier and Magneto. And we can shoot that first and make sure you've got that in hand. So, you know, and then the other 9 in between here, if you look at those other 9, they're kind of interchangeable. If number 5, if Beauty and the Beast, which was going to maybe the 4th one, ended up having to be the 7th one, it wouldn't have mattered. They weren't really connected. It's just that the Xavier and Magneto little backstory thing made you feel like they were all connected.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
So that was our professional compromise. It wouldn't let us do 13 connected ones. They'd let us do a 2-parter and a 2-parter and the 9 little bits.
So in the Savage Land, there was a moment, you know, all hell's breaking loose. Dinosaurs are flying and, you know, volcanoes are exploding and everyone's fighting. And there was a moment where I think a T-Rex falls into an active volcano just as everything else is going on. And Avery Coburn wrote back a note saying, okay, you can do this, you can do that, but I'm going to need to see that dinosaur come back out of the volcano unharmed.
Oh man.
Yeah, we can't let the kids think that it's burned to death.
And then Sydney, I wonder, you realize they're extinct. You realize that wait, what? So they're having this fight, and I'm just going,
so yeah, the executives are fighting among themselves, but in the end, we
saved the dinosaur.
We saved the dinosaur.
Yeah.
Wolverine became like a lead character in the 92 animated series, which I loved, and I was really happy in 97. You know, they're focusing more on, I guess you can say, Scott, but I'm not gonna lie, I miss Wolverine.
Yeah.
We'll say no more. We'll say no more.
Yeah.
There are more episodes to come.
There are
and
more
there's a
episodes to
second
come.
And there's
Yeah.
a second season
Yeah,
already in the works.
and we've had second season's already basically written.
Yeah.
Can you believe
We'll
that?
say no more.
Yeah,
Marvel
crazy.
is high on it. It's already, and it's just, it goes to show you that even if you're dealing with the same group of people, the creative people at the top, have the things that fascinate them. And as these stories progressed, I think they were more fascinated in since they were doing the Madeline Pryor bit, who does that affect most? It affects Scott most. So it fits to spend more time with him. Obviously, it affects Wolverine somewhat, but I think it just gets down into it's like being a musician. If you play with the same elements, one person's going to sound different from the other person. And the people that did this, it's just like Scott was working for them in these 10 stories, and I'm sure as it goes to season 3 and 4 and 5,
we hope
we'll have some heavy Wolverine arcs. But for right now, you're right. The first season was more Scott heavier than we did. Interesting. We never really had an agenda about making one character strong. We tried to keep
You kept track.
I kept track. I tried to keep it as balanced as I could. But in looking back, I think, we overwrote Wolverine. In fact, I would have to tell writers, write him less because he's such a compelling character.
Mm-hmm.
He's like Dirty Harry. He's like everybody wants to write for him. So, okay, cool. So we pulled back a little bit. I think we underwrote a little for Scott and for Storm. I think we got plenty of Rogue, obvious, and about the right balance for Beast. But if someone had said go back with a magic wand and balance R76 a little more, I think we would have had a little more Gambit.
Yeah,
a shade more Gambit,
a little more Jubilee,
and more
too.
Jubilee.
She was a challenge because she was underage.
She was so different from the others.
She was younger, so she couldn't be an actual danger.
She was really important the first season to help the audience learn who the X-Men were. Mm-hmm. And after that, I think our writers tended to want to write for the more adult characters. And so in that way, she got kind of short shrift, sometimes got left behind. So it's a hard thing to balance.
Yeah.
But I think you're going to see over the next couple seasons, over the end of the season and next season, you'll see plenty of Wolverine, I bet.
Well, was there a reason why Gambit was kind of not so much in the episodes towards the end?
I don't, not intentionally.
No.
Yeah, I didn't see him a lot anymore towards the especially the final season, if I remember correctly.
So about that final season.
Yeah,
okay. So you were
by the way, his voice wasn't there for the final
exactly.
season.
I remember that. That's kind of what I told Larry this, and I didn't want to sound like rude or anything, but I because Gambit's my favorite character. I honestly tuned out once the voice actor changed for Gambit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the animation on that final 11 episodes, just the budget was chopped. Margaret Lesh was no longer at Fox Kids. It was
we lost our protection.
Yeah.
I mean, it gives you show you the last season would probably be the best the show could have looked if Margaret and Sydney hadn't been there running things and insisting that everything be top notch. Because she for that season we had finished 65 and we all thought we were done and everybody's left to go and Larry left and our editor left and suddenly instead of Margaret being in charge at Fox, Haim Saban was in charge at Fox, and he looked around and said, "You're paying an average amount for these shows. That's silly. I'm going to cut this in half and save some money." And so that's why the animation looks so much weaker.
Oh wow.
And as I said, so then we don't have our main director of 65 episodes. We don't have our main editor of 65 episodes. We don't have our main post-production music people for the first 65 episodes.
Oh wow.
We ended up with still some good writers.
Yeah.
Because that's like the least expensive part of the job. But in most all of the production side, they cut everything in half and we lost our experienced people. So those last 11 were afterthoughts. In fact, they ordered 6 and then like a month later said, "Oh, give us another 5." And that was just
that's not even a 13
we
episode order.
we
It
were
was
already
just-
talking to other people about going to another job when we got the call saying, "Oh no, don't leave yet. You thought you were done, but for some business reason, we're going to produce 6 more." And so we did, and then we're going to produce 5 more. So the last 11 were really afterthoughts and under budgeted afterthoughts.
If you go back and watch season 4, Beyond Good and Evil, the 4-parter, oh
It's a
my
great
God, that's
one.
it's a magnum opus. Everything's happening.
That was supposed to be the end of the series.
Yeah, you
Right,
and Mark Edens had crafted that, and we have the actual outline for the original 4-parter that ends the way it was supposed to end, up in a file cabinet somewhere.
And that story was supposed to end with Xavier, Storm, Jean, and Scott and Jubilee all leaving, and Bishop, Shard, Psylocke, and Archangel all joining the X-Men.
Oh, wow.
That's why we set all the people up the first couple episodes as being cool X people. And there's going to be this big shift.
And that would be how the series
was going to end.
Wow.
And then we got, after we'd finished writing the script, we get this call saying, and I think they probably storyboarded already, saying, "Oops, no, we're not going to end with this. We're going to do 6 more. So you can't let these 5 people leave, and you can't have these 5 people stay, these 4 new people stay. So redo the ending." So that was a redo on.
Wow.
But which is a shame, because it was very, Mark Edens, who did so much with me to set up the first 2 seasons to do Phoenix, and he was the one that set up, the 2 of us did the story, set up the story for Beyond Good and Evil, and handed the script out to 4 other people. He didn't take credit. He's just the way he is. But we set this all up, and it all worked real nice as a story. And then we had to change the ending, which really sucked.
Yeah, I bet. Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know Larry left on the 5th season. Yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah.
Because he committed to the new Fantastic Four.
We'd all thought it was wrapped.
Yeah.
And it was, but then it wasn't. So yeah.
And the people and the people in charge now didn't care, who was directing it. They just wanted they just had they had a fee for doing 6 more, 11 more.
And hey, I'll discuss the challenge with the busted budgets and the people who couldn't come back, and the way the last 11 episodes came to be. But there is some sharp story in there, and there is some actual heartfelt stuff.
A couple of our favorite stories, including the ending, where the graduation day, where
written by Jim Creek,
where everybody comes back as Xavier's dying.
Yeah.
And that one still, gets us all teary-eyed.
And Len Wein, who was one of the co-creators of Wolverine, wrote several episodes for the series, but for the last one in season 5, it's like, well, if I want to write, if you're going to give me an episode, I want to use Captain America.
Oh.
And it's like, well, hey, you can't get him.
That's how Captain America was allowed in, because Len called Marvel and said, if I want to do another episode and I want to use Captain America, get the lawyers together and make it happen.
Len, we made it happen.
And so that's how that episode got in.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Carlos, anything to add?
I don't have anything. Like, I'm just it's just great to hear a lot of the backstory of like what started and to what we're watching now. Like, obviously, I grew up in that era of watching X-Men 97 or X-Men, the animated series. I'd come home after school, and that was what I'd watch because I had to wait till my mom was done with soap operas, and I would be able to watch that. So I remember that and reading the comics, and it's a good time. And I'm 45 in June, so watching X-Men 97 with my son who just turned 16, it brings back a lot of nostalgia for me. So I'm like, I get to see through his eyes what he's watching currently with 97. And then I told him, you need to go back and watch the old stuff. So he's been going back and watching the old stuff. And then he's just like, oh, wow, look how this relates to the new one. And it's very, very cool to see all that happen now.
Yeah. Yeah. We love that. We talked to people that said, that are about your age, that said, I used to watch your show with my dad, and now I'm watching it with my son or my daughter.
Yeah.
and that there's this thing that goes through generations, and that's just it makes us cry. We got our boys when the day it came out in the sneak peek in October
91st,
31st, 1992. Our boys were like a year and a half and 3 weeks old.
Oh wow!
And so they grew up with the show.
Yeah.
And with mommy and daddy down in the office working all day, and them banging on the door and say, "Why can't we come in? Well, we got to get a X-Men script in." Yeah, so.
Did you save any of the memorabilia that came out during that era?
Oh yeah. Pizza Hut had a big
Pizza, anyone? Pizza
Oh,
Hut, anyone?
you have the box. Nice.
We got
box.
we got the box and the cup, the tapes and
The tapes,
and the placemats, and
We got Pogs.
I did.
Oh my
I gotta look for those. I gotta find some Pogs.
yeah.
Pogs are, I think, part of the. There was a Happy Meal in the middle of the country. We didn't get them out here. Hardee's Happy Meal. Had
Oh.
Pogs.
Ah.
So
No, I've been
and
spending
also
too much
we,
time hunting this
you know,
down.
most of the stuff is personal stuff that we got, in
And I kept.
92,
Yeah.
92, 93, and we kept. Some of it we cheated a little, and it's available online. Some of it,
yeah.
so we kept it.
That's how I'm getting my stuff. My collection, because I've been collecting since I was a kid. I collected comic books and everything, and my collection got thrown away when I was, I think, 15, 16. I was already out of it, and I got more into music. But then I got back into. That is awesome.
Pizza Hut.
Awesome.
The Pizza Hut. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you.
No,
but
that's fine.
this is
Oh, I
actually.
forgot about that. I totally forgot about that. So I got back into collecting in my mid 20s, and I love vintage. So I'm trying to go back and buy everything that I used to have, and I just recently picked up all of the comics that came for Pizza Hut.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I got them all sealed. I don't know if they're worth anything, but they're all sealed. I got some of the VHS tapes, and
somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to rebuy as much as I can.
Yeah.
Because X-Men was a big part of my life. So was Batman the Animated Series. Both were. I got to meet Kevin Conroy.
Yeah, fortunate man.
Nice guy. Yeah.
Great guy. I got to have a conversation with him. And I don't normally fanboy out. So I've only done it a few times out of the celebrities I've met. And I did with him. I really fanboyed out.
Yeah.
Well, if you're going to fanboy with anybody, that would be the person who deserves the credit for that, for you to be fanboying with him. That was a little.
Yeah, a roundabout.
Yeah, roundabout, but
Yeah, guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, can you imagine? It's great. We spent the last 6 years or 7 years just talking to people like you, finding out that this work we did actually got across to somebody. Because we're just cranking away, and we've worked on over 50 different series. Larry's worked on 100.
Yeah.
And 1 out of 10 ends up working the way you want it to. And out of those, how many really grab somebody? And so we really are grateful to X-Men, because we can spend the rest of our lives just going to cons and having people come up to us and say, well, you made me really happy when I was a kid watching your show.
Wow.
And that's just, that's a gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
What do they normally come and bring to sign?
Well, we try and push the books.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got stuff that like a cover sheet from an original script or something that we will sign just if they need an autograph, because we don't have artwork like Larry to sell, or photographs. We've got they bring the pops.
Oh, Funko Pops.
They bring Funko Pops.
Of
the characters.
Yeah, I believe this is one you signed with Mark Edens and Michael Edens, who sadly is no longer with us.
Yeah,
so,
I see you got the Mondo 1/6 scale Wolverine on the bed there.
We got a prototype.
Oh, you got a prototype.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
And then we got
So we got a wonderful deal with Mondo.
Oh my God, the Mondo people have been spectacular. And Hasbro.
In all of these 1/6, they wanted a couple hundred words about each character.
Yeah.
And so we write that up for them, and they send us one.
That's what I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you if the company send you out.
Well,
not just at random, although Hasbro, that the big.
Hasbro's been very good to us with Hasbro's a big one, and then Mondo with these characters here.
Yeah.
Hey, if anyone's listening, we're happy to accept anything you choose.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're real good with swag, and we sometimes
no, we love swag. That's what I'm saying. We love swag.
At San Diego, Hasbro had a big island, and they had the two of us and Larry,
Dan Wiesenmeyer,
and the artist Dan Wiesenmeyer, signing these cards, which
that's right.
They were the basis.
Sorry, Dan Wiesenmeyer did a lot of art.
It was Dan's. Yeah, it's kind of hard to pull that. They're all going to fall.
There we go. Dan did the artwork on these beautiful production boxes with the action figures inside.
And so we did about an hour signing with Dan.
There you go. He's got one.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. Yes.
So,
yes.
So there are times when it works out that we're able to help a company out, and we
please.
And we retain the swag.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah.
Good.
We're learning what kind of pens and stuff work better with what kind of surfaces.
Yeah.
I'm learning too.
Yeah, guys.
Okay.
Well,
thank you for taking your time and coming onto our podcast.
Sure,
well,
great.
We're happy to do it.
Happy to do it. And we'll see you in Ontario.
I will be there. I'll bring my book. I'll bring my print. Whoa, there it goes again. I'll bring my book. But I do want to purchase a book though.
We can cut you a sweetheart deal.
Definitely.
And we'll sign it too.
We'll bring too many to Ontario.
Okay,
so we won't run out. Okay.
All right,
guys.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Take care. We'll see you soon.
And let us know when this comes out.
Yes, we will.
Do you know when it's going to come? In May, right?
Yeah, we're probably going to release this the week of the Monday before the last episode.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Guys, would like to thank Eric and Julia Lewald for joining us on the podcast. Hopefully, Carlos and I can get them again next season. So maybe they'll come on again. I got to have the mic a little bit closer. And again, I plugged their book right here. This is the X-Men 1992. Hopefully you can see that. There's a little bit of a glare. This is the art and making of the animated series. So it is available on Amazon and Big Bad Toy Store. Carlos will supply the Amazon link, and then I'll have the Big Bad Toy Store, depending on wherever you want to get it. They will be this weekend as we're filming this. So this weekend, May 18th and May 19th, they're going to be at Comic-Con Revolution in the city of Ontario, California. I will be there on Saturday, so hopefully I'll get to meet them, get my book signed by them, and then also want to pick up their book previously on X-Men. That I think you can get that on Amazon too, right?
Yep, link will be in description. Yeah, link will be in description. You can order both books. The art and making of the animated series you can buy from Big Bad. So if you want to grab it from Big Bad, click the link in the description, or Amazon, which one or other way is cheaper, doesn't matter. Links in the description to pick up the books.
Yeah. So we will. Well, you can pick it up at the Ontario Convention, Comic-Con convention if you guys are there. That's where I'm going to pick up my previously on X-Men, and I will be documenting it as well as I'm there. So, and then I'll probably try to get some more X-Men cast that I need on my print signed. So hopefully we'll do that. Hopefully I'll get that done. And then I do want to pick up some key comic books while I am there. I think it went pretty well. That was my second real interview for like, I guess you can say celebrities, right? My first one being Richard Centroni, Stuntman Batman. That was on my channel. Hopefully, we should see if we can get him on again for the podcast.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah, but that was good. We got to talk X-Men 97. There was a lot of questions I still wanted to ask them, but I think it went very well, and hopefully they enjoy watching this. If they do rewatch it, give us a follow if you do. But
I'm pretty sure they enjoyed it. I had a good time. I know we both had a good time, and they're a pleasure to talk to.
Definitely.
Super sweet couple. So if you guys can support them, please do by buying both the books. Go see them at conventions, get their signatures and all that. And like he said, he'll be visiting them at the Ontario Comic-Con this coming weekend.
Yeah. So we're actually filming this outro 2 weeks later? 3 weeks later?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're doing this kind of last minute, and as we're filming this, which is on Tuesday, May 14th, the final episode of X-Men airs tonight at midnight, and I'm going to stay up to watch it. And we're airing this the day it ends. So, do you have any? Let's talk. Well, let's talk predictions here at the end of this. So we'll see if it actually does come true. So, because by the time this airs, we'll already watch the series. So the series will be over by then. So how do you think it's going to end? Do you have any predictions?
I don't know. Like the way it ended with like the comic storyline with Fatal Attraction with Wolverine's adamantium getting pulled out. I was kind of thinking like maybe there'll be some time travel involved, but maybe not.
Never know.
Yeah, we talked about this on the podcast, but I think that Bishop's gonna have to show up on this last episode. If not, then I have no idea.
If not, then it's going to end on a cliffhanger, like you said, and it might continue on season 2.
Yeah, and I keep thinking that it's going to end on a cliffhanger. I've been saying that from the beginning. And hey, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But all I can say is X-Men 97 has been one of the best cartoons I've seen in a long, long time. And it's probably one of the best things Marvel's done in a long time.
Yeah, I'll say it's one of the best series since the 90s to me.
Oh, definitely.
Of animated. We asked them too, well, I had mentioned to them, I said, I like it that Scott's, they're getting more time for Cyclops, and, I kind of miss Wolverine, and they said, wait till season 2. And I can see why now they said that, because since Wolverine, that he lost his adamantium, he's going to play a big part. So, we'll see. Well, I think, I still don't think Gambit's going to be coming back this season, and there's still 2 possibilities. 3. He's either going to remain dead, time travel, fix everything, or he's going to come back, like we said in the beginning. He's going to come back as X-Men's Apocalypse's Horseman. I still don't think this is going to end with Onslaught. I think that's going to be like a pickup for next season. So
yeah, totally. That's kind of what it leading us to. I feel like. I also feel like there's going to be a lot of deaths in this last episode. I mean, we already seen a lot of those. I don't know, man. It sounds like there's going to be more deaths, and I was just like, I don't know how else they can end the show with on a sad note or an awesome, like thrilling cliffhanger. I don't know, but 1 or 2 things. Well, 3 things: Bishop showing up, cliffhanger ending, and a lot of people are going to die.
They can't wrap this up. We talked about this off of the air, that like they can't wrap this up in this last episode. It's too much going on right now. If they all of a sudden wrap this up, I mean, they can definitely possibly defeat Bastion, but they can't wrap up everything. Bishop can't come fix everything. Gambit's back, and that's just too much at this point. I thought honestly these last three episodes was going to be time travel, but I was wrong. So we'll see.
That's the funny thing, is you only been wrong about one thing this whole season, so that's pretty good.
Well, you were right, and I guess we both were right and wrong on Sinister. You know what I mean? We both you thought he was going to be the main baddie. I thought he was just done, 1 episode and done. So I mean, we kind of were both right, and we kind of were both wrong, because he's technically not the main villain.
No, I was not expecting Bastion to be like the main villain of this show. That threw me for a loop.
And that was impressive. That was real good too. That was really, really good.
Yeah.
But we talked about this recent episode where Wolverine's adamantium gets ripped out, and I mentioned it was a great episode, but I did feel like it was stuffed. There was a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
Like they didn't explain why we got the suits. The old suits. There was just a whole lot going on, but it was still a freaking great episode. I feel like maybe this should have been a 4-parter. What do you think?
Oh, jeez.
They could have fleshed it out more. It can still end the same way it's going to end, but they could have fleshed it out a little bit more, because technically if you think about it, dude, they're mixing a lot of storylines right now.
Yeah, they are. That's what I was going to say is I don't know if a 4th episode would have been needed, but I really really wish the last 3 episodes were hour long each, because that would have fleshed
yeah,
out
I agree.
more of the story.
Yeah, that would have been better.
They could have paced it out a little bit more. But yeah, these last 3 episodes are like probably the best episodes I've seen in a cartoon and since the 90s of any animated show. It's freaking crazy how good this is. It's getting a lot of praise, and you don't really see that with comic book cartoons or just cartoons in general. When's the last time you heard a show of this caliber getting such praise?
Well, not only that, it's getting considered for an Emmy. And the last time I think was Batman the Animated Series. That show got 4 Emmys. It won 4 Emmys.
And that was back in 1992, wasn't it?
That was in 92, but I think the first one it won an Emmy for was Robin's Reckoning, which was an amazing. Wow. So X-Men and Batman the Animated Series have always been like neck and neck with me as the best. But to me, Batman the Animated Series is the better animated series to me. But X-Men is like right there. It's right there. It's still not, X-Men still is not going to top Batman, not yet at least. But I think the animated series of Batman is the greatest animated series of all time.
Yeah, I mean, I ain't gonna deny that. That's true. That show was awesome. Still is awesome.
The score,
I would agree.
Didn't they use an actual orchestra?
Yeah. All the voice actors were great. Then you have X-Men from 1992. Literally, it's like 1 and 1A is basically how I would probably rank them as the best animated shows in the 90s. And then you got this. If they were to do a rehash of Batman the Animated Series, which I know they really can't because Kevin Conroy passed away. Yeah. But if they did, it'd be very, very hard for them to do that show as good as they did it back then.
Well, we're doing the Cape Crusader pretty soon. That's coming out.
Yep, on Amazon.
So we'll see how that goes. I'm pretty sure they're going to have a lot of pressure now because of how well X-Men is doing. So I mean, who knows, dude? This could, if Batman's as good as X-Men, I mean, they could definitely this could be a new thing for animated series going forward.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's a lot of fans out there like myself that are really wanting a Spider-Man animated series. Wouldn't say reboot, but same thing, continuation. I think that would be awesome to see.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna end it here, right?
Yep.
So again, go ahead and follow Eric and Julia. Their social media, what's their social media under? Isn't it X-Men?
It's at X-Men TAS on Instagram.
X-Men TAS, okay, on TAS again. And they're going to be at the Comic-Con Revolution in Ontario, California this weekend. So go ahead, go support them. Like I said, I'm going to be there. I'm going to get some autographs. I'm going to go get this book signed by them and go pick up the Previously on X-Men book. And then meet some of the voice cast from the 97 so I can get my print signed. And hopefully I can get the whole cast to sign that print. I'll probably meet Larry again as well, because I do want to get a print from him, also a Villains print, because he's got a lot of cool prints at his booth. So that's where I'll be this Saturday. And I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast, this episode. It was very exciting. We're talking about it. Exciting. Finally broke in the shirt, first time wearing it. Funko shirt. This is like on clearance right now on Amazon. I think it still is. You gave me the link to this. So
yeah, I think it's gone now.
Okay, never mind. Sorry, guys. But I will be sporting a unique X-Men shirt at the Comic-Con Revolution. I like to always rock some shirts that a lot of people don't wear. So you guys will see me wearing a really cool X-Men shirt at the convention. So I'll be documenting all that. Any last words, Carlos?
No, just make sure you guys thumbs up the video, comment on the replay. Also, go
share the video.
Follow us on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Music, iHeartRadio. That is it. That's all I want to say. So,
all right, guys, thank you. Thank you for everything. Thank you,
awesome.
Eric and Julia. If you guys are watching this, hopefully you guys can come back next season and we can talk spoilers on this season here. And maybe we can get some of the other cast from the 97 on here eventually. Maybe, hopefully.
That would be awesome.
All right. All right, guys. Thank you for watching. We'll see you soon. Good night. Actually, I don't know why I'm saying good night. We'll see you soon. Later.
Later.